More times than not, the visual prominence of something is the very first thing you will ever notice. I want you to think about the first time you've seen your crush, your girl, your wife, partner, whatever it may be. What did you notice first? Was it the way they were dressed, their beautiful, tantalizing eyes, or was it their long, flowing hair? Okay, now I want you to think on a place you visited in the past that was nothing short of awe-inspiring. You can probably remember how the wind felt across your face, the sand beneath your feet, the warmth of camaraderie. But as you close your eyes, before anything else, I bet you can see it, can't you? You can see a crystal clear, an image. This theme is the same with video games. More specifically, it's been like this for me when it comes to a video game called Fran Bow. Fran Bow holds a special place in my heart because not only is the story and game itself just nothing short of amazing, but it also was the first video that made me realize that I have a choice in life, that I have a career path in life. I made a video about 8 months ago on Fran Bow called Fran Bow's About Lobotomy or something like it, and it got, well, damn near 900,000 views. It is insane to me. I've never thought I would even get close to that number, 1 million. It was such a journey. But before anything else, what had stuck with me was the art, the artistic art style of that video game. It is such a journey when you look back at it and compare the first chapter with the last. I think there were very purposeful changes within the art itself and hints and story-driven narrative hints within the art as well. I am not going to spend the next hour yapping about a game and making a video that literally no one asked for. But chances are, if you are a returning viewer, for whatever reason, that means you may like this type of content. So sit down, strap down, it's a good watch. Anywho, let's go over the first blaring question. Who am I? Well, as you guys may know, my name is Yuri. Nice to meet you. I'm known as the Yappinator. Yapper Miss Yapperson. Yuri Yapping Clark. Still a weird name, I understand. But what you guys may not know about me is that I am an artiste as well. My mother actually used to draw, right? When she was in high school, even middle school, she used to draw. So then when she had me, my first brother can't draw for my second brother can't draw for so of course the third one, me, I had some of that natural talent. And so from middle school, I went and refined my drawing skills. And then one day, while shopping in Hobby Lobby, she turns to me and she sees that I have this interested look in a book called Manga Art by Mark Crelly, I believe, and she buys it for me. So now it taught me the basics. And so I went from learning the basics to then drawing fan arts of my favorite characters to then creating OCs and then finally a webtoon of my own creation. And I would continue this pattern through middle school all the way to high school. Each day, drawing and drawing, getting better and better, until finally, SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, a college with many art fields of study ranging from animations to performance arts to goddamn interior design. SCAD takes top place in the Art and Objects Best Art Schools ranking, and it also is the #1 art school in the country. And I just so happen to have my 4 years of education spent there. Am I in crippling debt? Yes. Do I regret it? Yeah. No, of course not. I don't regret anything. What are you talking about, huh? So I'm going to give you a pretty brief synopsis of how SCAD works, or how my experience with SCAD worked, okay? How SCAD structured itself in my 4 years of sequential arts was the first and second year were mostly foundation classes. Math, English, some life drawing here, some electives there. Then junior year would hit, and oh my god, did the restless nights hit. That's when studio classes were introduced, and for me, I majored in sequential arts, and so those were my studio classes. Deadline after deadline, final after final, and then senior year would finally hit, and everything gets a little bit lighter, at least in the school department. Only now it's been replaced with a wave of reality that in the next year, you're either going to be homeless or staying with your parents. Now, why in the world did I just tell you all that information? Well, it's my credentials, of course, duh. I've been through hell and back. I sat up drawing deadline after deadline until 3 a.m. I remember one day I was drawing, I saw the sun go down, I put some anime on. I think I was watching Sword Art Online. Actually, dang, shout out back to that. I was watching Sword Art Online because I remember I watched season 1 and 2, and I was like, how does this even, like, it's still going? So I ended up watching season 1 and 2, and then I went on to Gun Gale Online, and then I went on to the little other stuff. I don't even know what you would call it, but the one with Alice. I would put that on, and I would see the sun come back up. And I'm like, is it 6 a.m.? I have class in 2 hours. But anyway, as I said, I've been through hell and back, and thus I picked up a few basic and sometimes more advanced knowledge of art and design, character development, storyboarding, what have you. And I plan to use this knowledge to break down the art of Fran Bow and how I believe the art also furthers the narrative and shows us hints of lobotomy. Let's get into it. As I said earlier, I had already made a video on Fran Bow on a much deeper level. However, I like to pretend that you guys may not know what I'm talking about, and that I'm not just talking to returning viewers, but I'm talking to people who have never been on my channel before, nor do they know what I'm talking about. So we are going to go over the briefest parts of Fran Bow. It's not going to be an hour. It's not going to be an hour. It's going to be a brief synopsis of each chapter, what happens, because personally I feel like you need to have a full grasp on the story, so that way when I'm speaking about things, you can actually understand how the art amplifies the idea. Fran Bow is separated into 5 different chapters, with a few chapters having 2 parts to them. Thank you, computer. I really much appreciate the OneDrive isn't signed in. But as I was saying before I got interrupted, Fran Bow has certain chapters have 2 parts, and I'll just bring it to your attention when that does happen. But without further ado, let's get through chapter 1, My Sober Day. We start off the game with a brief look on Fran Bow's life. Fran Bow is shown to be very close with her mother, father, and aunt. She even has a best friend by the name of Mr. Midnight, her cat. Everything was great until one day, something evil transpired in that home. Fran Bow's mother and father would be killed, quite brutally. Fran Bow would flee from the home and fall unconscious in the forest, being omitted into a nearby asylum. The chapter would begin with us telling our doctor, or at least Fran telling her doctor, of the events of that dreadful night. We then take this new medication called duotine, a red pill, which negatively affects Fran Bow, knocking her out cold for days. Be aware, Fran Bow. If you leave the House of Madness,
I will hunt you down, catch you, and bring you back to insanity. Fran, wake up. That medicine, it'll help you escape. I'll be waiting for you in the forest. I love you.
And finally, when waking up, her goal is to escape the hospital and meet her best friend in the nearby woods. The way to do that was to utilize the power of the red pills to get out. And like I said, the duotine is a really, really strong hallucinogen drug. You basically learn this later in the game, but there are two types. And actually, now that I'm about to speak about it, I have no idea what the word is, and I don't know if it's real or not. But essentially, what duotine does, it is supposed to put your brain in this middle state of consciousness and unconsciousness. And there are yellow versions that have a low dosage, and then there's red dosages that have a fuck ton, okay, like an insane amount. And we are taking the red pill, so that's why we are able to go through these different realities. That's why duotine in this game is so damn important, is because when we use it as Fran Bow, we see a parallel universe. We see the darker reality. We see whatever is paralleling our reality, but yet they can see us, but we can't see them. That's what the red pill does. And obviously, if you are interested in the game at a deeper level, then I would implore you to watch my other video, as I really go heavy into all of this nitty ditty details, because a big part of Fran Bow is that some people don't know what's real and some others don't know what's fake. Because if you know, Fran Bow is a part of the same universe as Little Miss Fortune, and Little Miss Fortune kind of just, how do I put it? Little Miss Fortune kind of just puts everything that happened in Fran Bow as facts. The realities, real. The monsters, real. The fifth reality, real. Things beyond that, real. So there's just a lot of real things that tend to happen. And so people are like, oh, so this wasn't all crazy. But if you know my video is pretty much stating that it is real. Trust and believe. Can these birds stop? It is real. Trust and believe. It's real. It's just, imagine a girl who just watched their parents die and is currently being sedated and lobotomized and taking hallucinogen drugs. Yeah, things are a little wonky. You know, there are real ultra realities. It word is real. I'm more than likely to say these things are real. It just so happens that we are with an undiagnosed, untrustworthy narrator. Anyway, back to the actual story at hand. Please, like I said, I implore you, just watch the other video if you want to know more about it. But going back to the game, and while meeting many interesting and sad and tragic children of the hospital, we do in fact get out of the building with the help of duotine. We make our way through the courtyard, dodging all forms of these black negative creatures named Kamalas, and it finally brings us into our second chapter, which being chapter 2, Curiosity Symptoms. Now, fully tripping on duotine, reality begins to merge with the other parallel reality. We find dark secrets about the mental hospital and how the head doctor guy was doing some human experimentations and threw out infants into a nearby well, which takes us into the second part of chapter 2, that being double personality. Fran Bow has to fight these twins, but of course we can't simply throw hands, because one, it's a 2v1, and the others because they actually have Mr. Midnight, our cat, and they're older. So it's stacked against us. But Fran cleverly creates a potion that is meant to separate the two into a spell that literally fucking kills them. So, after rescuing Mr. Midnight, we hitch a ride on a toad and get back to the mainland. Unfortunately, before we could get back, we are attacked by Ramor, the Prince of Darkness, and we are put into a quote-unquote vegetative state. No, literally, that's the next chapter, chapter 3, vegetative state.
Don't be afraid, Fran. We always fall. And after the pain, we will always rise. Oh dear Aunt Grace, don't ever leave me. Don't cry, my little girl. Your heart is pure, but your mind is tormented. You have to stay and walk your own path. Please, Aunt Grace, why won't you just take me out of here? Please. You'll just leave me all alone, like my mother and father did. I'm sorry, my dear Fran. You will soon understand. Aunt Grace, no, please don't, please, please. Fran, it's time for your medicine.
I can't even pinpoint where this bird is at. Alright, I'm gonna end the recording here until this bird chills out. This motherfucker's screaming for his damn life. Sheesh. When I tell you that this chapter 3, is still an enigma for me, I still have problems. I don't really understand this part. Like, a lot of nuance, details. It's so vast. It has to have something that I'm just not understanding, right? It has to be showing things that just don't hit the mind right. Later, we're going to be looking deeper into it, and maybe we'll have an answer for it. Though that is not the focus for us in this very moment. We're going to, like I said, wrap around back to it, and you're going to figure that whole part out. In this chapter, we wake up as a branch, a tree branch with no arms or legs, no bitches. Then some homeboy just starts attacking Fran. Playing as Mr. Midnight, we need to prove our identity, and when we do, we find the king of this reality. He calls the doctor to help us get a temporary body, then calls the court wizard to help us get back to our reality. We are instructed to solve these riddles to get back home, because as a failsafe from keeping the reality out of the wrong hands, well, the doctor, the wizard guy, gives himself amnesia, so he doesn't even know if he were to ever even be questioned. But once we collect all the items, and we do in fact get back home. Now, I know that was a mighty short synopsis of this entire thing, but trust me, this reality has so much lore, where I'm pretty sure I could focus solely on that reality and find out many different secrets of the game, world lore, anything. But again, we're not here for that. So we're going to move on to chapter 4, part 1, Imaginary Friend. Upon coming back to our reality, we run into Edward, our longtime imaginary friend. Edward thinks it's unsafe for us to be out here and offers a ride in his flying machine. Unfortunately, he needs to repair some things. In order to even fly this thing, it needs to be 2:35 a.m. so they can enter Ultra Reality. Again, go watch my Fran Bow video. It explains all of this, okay? We again go into the woods searching for materials and whatnot, and when we do get it, we fix the machine, and well, the trip is on its way. However, Edward and Mr. Midnight play a prank on Fran, but this was just a surprise for her birthday. Happy moments do not last very long in this game, and evil critters of the night begin to attack the ship. We defeat them, but the damage was still done, and we crash land. Bringing us into chapter 4, part 2, Doctor's Prescription. Upon waking up, Mr. Midnight and Fran notice that they're mighty close to their home. When getting there, no one is home and the spare key is gone. So Mr. Midnight jumps into one of the windows, wanting to unlock it from the inside, but while doing so, the doctor finds us and urges us to get into this car as he has found some strange doings at the hospital. Mr. Midnight never comes out of that home, by the way. Was he ever even real? Or was he simply in a different reality and he tried to unlock the home? While in the car driving, the doctor shows us papers showing that we were reported dead on the night of our parents' murder. And on top of that, the duotine she was given has way too much strong properties, and so the doctor needs to find some answers. And so he takes her to the graveyard and plans to dig up her parents' graves, and when we do, well, we find our parents. They are indeed dead, but they are noticeably not chopped up into pieces, and we find a dead cat. But that can't be right? Remora doesn't give us a chance to figure that part out as he kills the doctor, then takes us into a different reality, bringing us to Chapter 5, the House of Madness. Within the House of Madness, reality and fantasy have now merged. The duotine seems to have taken a permanent effect on Fran's mind as she's talking to herself in the past while currently being tied up in what looks like a home but turned into an asylum. Her mind is jumbled. Going through all the madness of what Fran Bow pretty much embodies, we come to find the doctor alive and somewhat well. He's been sedated, and so we wake him up with more drugs. Upon waking him up, Oswald, the head doctor we saw experimented on the twins at the very beginning, and our very old aunt comes out with Mr. Midnight held hostage. Aunt Grace, I think that's her name by the way anyway, but she believes it is a good idea to teach us to listen and throws Mr. Midnight off into the void, causing Fran Bow to become angered and attack her. The doctor is forced to shoot Fran, saying that if they move quickly, well, there's still time to do whatever it is they were doing. But before that, Edward, Mr. Midnight, and the guy from Estria comes to save the day. They revive Fran, and she either is free from her mental torment or she's going into an entirely different reality, aka heaven. It's whatever you choose to believe, then that's the end. A fever dream of a game.
Listen, y'all, don't look at this, okay? That's when I don't feel like putting stuff away. We got Reese Puffs, bro. I know this shit looks scrumdiddlyocious to y'all, and y'all just sitting here trying to be all cute about it. Y'all be trying to say, oh, you know what I'm saying, like, I like Frosted Flakes. I like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I like Trix. Trix are for kids. Listen here. Don't say none of that bullshit around here. All we eat is Reese Puffs, okay? You know what? If you guys have made it to this part of the video, I want you guys to comment. What is your go-to choice when it comes to cereal, and what is your go-to choice when it comes to chips? Because for me, Reese Puffs comes in first, always and forever, and sour cream and onion Pringles, the best there ever was. Right now downstairs I got 6 of them in my cabinets. I just bought a family. I live by myself, and I'm eating a family box. You feel me? And I'm lactose intolerant, so you already know I got the oat milk inside of this. Ugh. I don't know why I'm started rambling. Let's let's get back to the video, huh?
So for each chapter, it's my personal belief that the game changes the art depending on Fran Bow's mental state. Let me explain. Chapter 1, it's called My Sober Day. Obviously, the chapter wouldn't be called My Sober Day if it wasn't trying to hint towards something or foreshadow things to come. In the opening scene, everything is black and white. Not only does this allow for this to be visually striking, but it also helps to simplify the mental state of a little girl when she's sober. Notice how everything she loves is white. Her parent, her aunt, herself, Not Mr. Midnight. I give him a pass because that's a damn black cat. Like, you're not gonna make the black cat a white cat. Like, I understood that part, okay? That's when we see Remor, caped in darkness. Black and white serving as good and evil. Fran Bow at this point only loved those immediate in her life. Everything else was uncertain. Everything else out of that house was uncertain and could be evil. I use this silhouette method in my past to convey a similar emotion, whether that show isolation, or a reference to yin and yang, or even just as a way to show the viewer a dramatic moment. It all works super well here. When Fran Bow leaves the home, notice how it has now become a dark, filled with blood home, and the people who found her and picked her up are black as well. This is thought to be the aunt, and thus it makes sense for her to be caped in darkness, as she's now evil. Later we go into the actual chapter. Fran gets dual-teen and passes out, then awakes. Immediately you can tell a few things about this room. The floor are tiles, a very similar aesthetic to the book called Alice in Wonderland. And not to mention Fran's stocking or long socks, I'm not really sure which one they are, but they also match the aesthetic very well. Very jester-like, very clown-like. Alice in Wonderland, written by Lewis Carroll, is pretty much just about a girl named Alice who falls asleep one day and falls into a rabbit hole of many different adventures and whatnot. Though unlike many fantasy stories where it's just about fun and running and adventuring, this one follows the story of the stage called transitional adulthood. Learning to take problems head on, regain a sense of identity, and just become a more defined you. Fran Bow, as we know, is having major problems, and these tiles can represent just that. A child put in a seriously morbid situation, a situation where most adults wouldn't even know what to do, and yet she has to figure how to solve all these different problems and all these different type of issues, and by the end accepting her fate and growing because of it, choosing happiness. This is also quite a clever tactic to input it into the very first part of the game. Using a well-known and established aesthetic and what it could mean could also help further and convey what exactly it is that you were trying to talk about with your story. Many shows have done it, but I think my favorite being from ReZero. So without spoiling too much, there's a character by the name of Roswell, and when we meet Roswell, homie's a whole ass clown, but he's strong. We're left to wonder, how did a regular human become such a strong individual? Come season 2, we get Roswell's backstory. We see a much younger version of himself who isn't dressed as a clown and also isn't speaking weird as hell. Then we get the fight, or should I say, the slaughter. Hector of Melancholy. He speaks weird and dressed as a clown, thus, now without anyone saying anything, we're able to equate that something may have happened with Roswell and Hector. He may have PTSD, or for whatever reason begins speaking just like the abuser, kind of like Stark with the suit. You know, you would think you would be scared to get back into the suit, but as we saw in, I think, the second Iron Man, and the only thing that made him feel safe was the suit. I always thought that was a very interesting mechanic, an interesting characterization, because I think most people would go the opposite way. If you get in a fatal car accident, most people aren't going to want to get back into a car. Most people, that will be the source of their PTSD. But as we saw with Stark, the Iron Man suit is what allows him to feel safe, impenetrable. And with Roswell, he begins speaking like the person that brutally defeated him that day. And you know, it was a whole theory like, oh, did he get the witch like soul inside of him or something? Like, we've seen that happen before, but no, it's just because he wants to remind himself of that defeat that day. So he begins to speak and dress just as Hector did, just so that way he could never forget, ever. But the idea still stays the same. We learned so much about Roswell from purely visual hints. just as we can understand the narrative of Fran Bow by noticing small details such as the floor tiles. There's also another thing that I want to talk about. I've used this method as well. I think it's a really cool full circle, right? Because if you know how Fran Bow ends, it ends with them going off into the sunset. I believe that this is her accepting what's happened to her, accepting her fate, and growing into adulthood because of it, growing as a person. She doesn't understand things, and that's okay. She chooses happiness. She chooses to be happy. I think it's a huge thing that is pretty much what Lewis Carroll was trying to get out of Alice in Wonderland. Was it's not really about being super mature and having nothing affect you. It's about understanding these emotions, internalizing it, and turning it into something that propels you forward. And I think the fact that this is the first thing we see in the first part of the game tells you so much about the ending. It does a full circle. And it's something I've done as well with my manga, where I started off with the yin and yang, right? I talked this whole thing. I'm like, oh, yin and yang, without light, shadow will be casted, or with light, shadows are casted, but without shadows, light will be rendered useless, blah, 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 right? And it has this whole little like yin and yang aspect. You read it, you don't really understand why you just read all that until you get into the last part. Where it started is where it's going to end. And so we finally get my two characters, right? And they're dancing in unison, and they are both representing that yin and yang, that good and that evil. Now we know, oh, it's not just a stereotypical monster they're fighting about. It's more so other things as well. It's them, you know, it's the yin and the yang. I think it's a really cool narrative thing where it all comes full circle, right? So now fast forwarding through all the patients, the security guard, and the parallel reality jumps, okay? Let's take a look at the main antagonist, Ramor. What's his design say about him? Ramor, the Prince of Darkness, has no legs, small T-Rex arms, and seems to just float around and have the ability to create portals, freeze time, and induce hallucinations. Ramor's most prominent feature, however, is his head, a stag skull of sorts. Ramor has a stag's head with devil horns poking out, not to mention his face has full red streaks all over it, more than likely being blood. But for many cultures, stag skulls usually mean life and death, the dual nature of existence. In many cultures, the deer is seen as the symbol of life, while the skull represents death. The combination of the two symbols creates a powerful contrast, reminding us that life and death are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other. And dual nature, you say? If you know anything about Fran Bow, that word dual is just a staple for the game. Dual, duality, duo, it's so much, right? Fran Bow takes duo-teen, duo meaning two. Dual-teen allows you to see a parallel reality. Parallel means two, dueling our perception. Twins, unable to survive without the other, are wanting to be separated. Twins, two. Later in the game, when Edward says he can only achieve ultra reality in that time flying machine at 235, 2 again, number 2 represents duality, harmony, cooperation, partnership. Seeing the number could signify a need to focus on relationships and finding a balance in life. Balance, 2, it just keeps going. The word duality. Duality. And for most cultures, like I said, the deer represents life and the skull represents death. Ramor represents death. And I don't mean the stereotypical, ha ha ha, you're dying, so I'm going to take your soul. More so the lingering idea of death. I feel like everyone has their own Ramor. Everyone has that lingering thought of death, just always there, always being reminded. You're walking, and time just flows you by, and you talk to someone, and they're like, yeah, they passed away. And you're just reminded by that ill reality that life could end and you just forget. You're so self-conceited in this bubble of all importance, and you're just thrown off. They died, but that means I could die. If they could die, what's stopping me from dying at any day? Sometimes right before I lay my head down and go to sleep, I have to think to myself, I may not wake up the next morning. Of course, it's been a pretty good record so far. I wake up every morning, but this could be my last. And then I'm sitting there, well, if I do die, at least it'll be peacefully, right? However, where will I go? Who would I hurt? What haven't I done? Will I get a second chance? It just keeps going. However, I think this lingering idea of death is so intense for Fran Bow because of what she's gone through with her mother and her father and all the things that she's been seeing in these parallel realities. Now, of course, Fran would go on to escape the asylum and go through the mini running game simulator, but no need to beat a dead horse. Obviously, these little mini game simulators are very childish, you know, like she is just imagining, haha, I'm running through a maze. It's very kid-like, very innocent. It's just supposed to show that she's still a child. And then the next scene I'd like to focus on would be Chapter 3, Vegetative State. Within the game, it has always used muted colors to make everything look dark and worn down and just plain disturbing. I'm talking about Chapter 1 basement scene. That one was scary. I didn't like that at all. The lobotomy patients down there was just, it was weird. And like, my goodness, bro. Even thinking about that, when you go into the ultra reality, if you go into the other reality, you see it verbatim. You see their brains spilling out. And when you go back, you just see the aftermath of it. You see them just standing there like it's already happened. It is frightening, dude. It is really bad. But I want to focus on Chapter 3, Vegetative State, and why the hell it was so bright compared to everything else. Take all that color theory and throw it right out the window, okay? Because Vegetative State, everything is bright and happy and bright. I already think I said that, but it's bright, okay? But yeah, it's super bright in comparison to everything else in the game. Also, I mentioned color theory earlier. What the hell is that exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked, because finally my education can be used for... So, Professor Yuri here, yo. Color theory is this study of how colors mix, match, and contrast with each other. Essentially explaining the science and art of using color to achieve the visual effect and communicate meaning through the relationships between different hues. Hues is colors, by the way. It often revolves around the color wheel and concepts like primary, secondary, and complementary colors, as well as how to create harmonious color palettes and design and art. Man, bro, I feel like SCAD foundation classes would have busted a nut after they heard me just say all that. Yeah, I learned. Yeah, I know what color theory is. Harmonious? Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Complementary colors are positioned opposite each other on the wheel, such as red, green, blue, orange, yellow, purple. Utilizing them together can create a strong contrast in an artwork. But it isn't just primary, secondary, and complementary, but there are also other methods, like analogous colors are located next to each other on the wheel, such as blue, blue-green, and green. See, so it creates a gradient. In the very first room of Fran Bow, we are able to see the use of analogous method. Fran is wearing a yellow dress, laying on a lighter yellow, while also her hair is brown, orangish kind of deal, and the wall behind her is a brownish red, creating an almost gradient look. Now, take a look at Estria. Where's all the color going, bro? It's all over the place. We got blue skies, we got pink trees, we got brown soil, we got yellow flowers, color overload. And I think that was done on purpose. This reality is meant to be everything good, duality, right? If Kamala's / the fifth reality represents negative energy, loss, and death, well then Estria represents positive energy, growth, and life. So of course, Natalie would use every warm color in the book. That's what this place represents. I've used this skill plenty of times, and with enough practice, you could spin it on its head. For example, this was my opening scene to my manga I was working on as my senior project. Using blue, green, and having a white dress flowing in the middle makes it to where it is a very dreamy environment, very bright, somewhere you would like to believe you would want to be. Only to then use her yellow eyes as a form of warning. Not dangerous or evil or anything, but just a warning. Because if you know, color theory does the same thing. If you think about all the places that you've, shopped at, you would see most times the primary color. You would see red. Red means urgent, like you need to go now. So I think when you go into Target, a lot of things are red. So most of the boards you go and see are red. And so they're urgently saying, hey, 50% off. You got to get this now type shit, right? And then if you go into like, let's say Walmart, you got blue. It's more of a calm feeling, they're not yelling at you. Most people enjoy shopping at Walmart because it's usually a very calming environment. Very, ironic because my Walmart is fucking crazy as hell, but even still. And then you'll have yellow, and yellow's more like warning. And that's the same thing with driving. You see a stop sign, it's urgently telling you stop your stupid ass before you get in a car accident. When you see a yield sign, it's yellow most times. And then when you see like white or whatever, it's informative. Same with traffic stops. You can literally do so much with colors, but same with traffic stops, right? You have green means go, yellow is warning you to slow the fuck down, and red is urgently telling you to stop. It's so many things you can do. That's exactly what Estria represents. All warm color. It's all things meant for life, growth, and everything. So going back to my manga, that's exactly what I did. I opened up with a beautiful, and I did this in contrast because I wanted the first 2 pages to be quite colored and then everything else black and white. And it's supposed to represent the mental state of our main characters and everything else, while also keeping that traditional black and white, aesthetic going that manga has. And so I opened it up with just like light blues, dark blues for mountains, the white dress in the middle, blue skies, all the things. And then we see finally a hint of warning where the girl has these colored eyes, these yellow colored eyes. And she turns and she's like, I've given you everything you need. You go do it. And so now you're on edge. Now you're like, what is happening? And then he wakes up and then blah, 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 blah. You see what happens. It's fire. And also going back to Fran Bow, this also works in tandem with my previous theory of Fran going under a lobotomy. And in this state, she has been sedated. I mean, it is called my vegetative state or vegetative state. So I believe she's been sedated quite heavily at this point. And so her mind is probably as docile as it could ever be. Meaning very well, if she's having a good trip, her mind could be thinking of the best, most warm places possible. And that's why Estria is that middle ground of it just being awesome. And then in the later half, obviously, it becomes a bit more jumbled because every high has to come down at some point. Now, finally, I want to focus on the very last chapter of the game. It's something that's very interesting that I noticed within the game. Let's go back to chapter 1. When Fran was escaping the facility and Remor had attacked her as she left. Look behind him in the portal. You see that color palette, right? The reddish sky that seems to be slowly becoming engulfed by pure darkness. Now look at the final scene. We're floating in the same space. We're floating in the same space that the Prince of Darkness apparently originates from. This either means we are in the fifth reality, the Prince of Darkness does not exist, or the fifth reality is just simply a state of mind, a place where death looms, negativity spreads, and creatures that leech onto you and feed upon you keep you depressed. Fran's cat just died. Her aunt has just betrayed her. Her parents will never be coming back. If that isn't enough to get you to the fifth reality, then I don't know what will. Only then to be rescued and come to this tantalizing conclusion. I still don't know many things, but one thing I do know, that between guilt and fear, I chose happiness. And that has been Fran Bow. Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and hit the like button as well, and hit the bell so you're notified and stuff like that. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next. Hey, so can you write that? Like I was really interested. Hey, you're wanting me. Yeah, I was trying. Yeah, I want you to. You didn't even hear what I'm trying to say, bro. Can you stop talking over me, bro? I'm really upset. I showed you a bunch of teasers throughout. You guys want to see the comics? Yes, that's what I said. Is that right? Yes, that's what I said. Read the fucking comic. Yes. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we will. We can do that for sure. Yeah, we're going to. On a beautiful day with blue skies, clouds puffier than marshmallows, mountains higher than the clouds themselves, and trees littering it all, wildlife would eat the luscious grass until they could hear a disturbingly loud noise coming their way. And as they would look up, a giant monster with eyes that seemed to be bleeding from its sockets, and a mouth 3 times bigger than its own head, with arms and appendages all morphed and disturbing, and a person running for their life. The monster would, in fact, get a hold of the person they were chasing, and before it could open its gaping mouth and eat the woman whole, our main character would show, running into action, half of his face being scarred, half of his body seemingly being scarred, and the attention brings the monster to draw its eyes towards Tadio. And right before the clash, Tadio would murmur something. Aluga. He would smash right through the monster, killing it in one blow. As he would sit there, the woman that was being attacked earlier would look on in awe and just marvel at the incredible power that she was just witnessed. The leader of the group here would run through the bushes and make sure that everyone's okay. And whilst the chaos was in the back ensuing, our main character would pick up a strange but black gem and look at it in awe. Finally, the leader would turn his gaze towards Tadio and ask if what he was doing and why he would run off alone. He was quickly scolded for acting so impulsively. Tadio being very confused as to why he's being scolded when he was the one who saved the young lady behind him, the two of them begin to walk and talk, and we learn more about our main character. She thanks him profusely and asks, and why is it that he came to save her, and how the hell is he so damn powerful? He tries to dodge the question, saying that it was nothing, and that he simply wanted to do it. She quickly makes a fuss, saying just how she's trying to act cool. Her over-exaggerated facial expressions makes Tadio laugh, and he gleams a smile like no other, saying that of course he came to help her and her alone, and that makes her blush. He then actually takes charge of the conversation, saying that will she be attending the Trial of Might. She asks what the hell that even is, and he basically informs her that the Trial of Might is from the crazed king. He is a nuthead when it comes to fighting, and so every single year he hosts a thing called the Trial of Might, where some of the mightiest warriors try to fight it out and claim to be the strongest. And of course, whoever is deemed the strongest gets a chance to be on the elite guard. She, of course, being a peasant, has never really seen the king himself, so she just kind of imagines a tyrant. As they would walk, She would ask, well, was he? Because it's just a place for royalty, right? No peasants can really go there. Then he laughs and says, well, thanks to the princess, of course he'll be there. The leader of the group would cut some twines and finally move through a brush of vegetation, only to come to find something frightening. It's a creature, quite small and not menacing at all, yet the aura around it says, one small move and you are going to pay. His eyes begin to bleed and everyone in the group shudders, and the leader quickly tells everyone to run. Taddeo is quickly taken off guard as he sees something coming from the opposite direction of whatever that thing was, and right before it could get his jaws trapped around Taddeo, something faster than the speed of light would have Taddeo in his arms. We see a tongue with a strange ring-like symbol, and as we see it, we do not hear the words, yet we see the effects. The woman from earlier seems to be that of a special enlightened character. As she mutters the word of power, it becomes faster than the eye could ever perceive. However peaceful, we go back to see a wall, and two guards wearing blindfolds sit there, and they basically say just how boring it is. Nothing truly ever happens here, and that they hate being put on guard here. But as soon as they talk about how peaceful it is, of course, that's when the main character and their crew comes. Screaming bloody murder. The woman from earlier is now carrying Taddeo in her arms, and she is running fast as the monster behind her is trying its hardest to kill them. They quickly open the gates, they boom through, and the two guards close the door using very interesting hand signs.
Hey guys, editing Uri here. I had planned to just end it there, but it was low-key very fun to edit. So I'll do the whole thing. Keep in mind, however, this is not a fully fleshed out series. Some things will have been changed, i.e. Taddeo will have no more scars, locations will also change mid-series, art style even. This is because everything drawn here was for my senior thesis. But they were all for separate classes, which meant different rubrics needed to be met. Sorry. And enjoy.
Yin and Yang. Wherever there is light, shadows will be casted, but without shadows, light would be rendered useless. Only when the two are in unison can true equilibrium be obtained. Thus, the balance of good and evil is created. I've given you the power you need. Taddeo, fix the balance. Oh, man. That damn dream again. I've been having it way too often lately. Fix the balance, she says. Well, today, I can finally make that dream reality. The busy streets of Pabolillo are buzzing with vendors and workshops and cooks and foods and goods. All the while, people wearing blindfolds walk about while others seem to not have any at all, seem to lack any sight at all. And that's when two readily excited youngsters are talking about something interesting. Man, I am so excited. Yeah, I'm glad that the princess allowed for us peasants to actually attend such an event. It's awesome. That's right. Today's the day I can make my dream reality. Wow, look at that girl. What the hell is a peasant like her doing here? She doesn't even have the decency to wear her blindfold? What the hell? I'm blind, you know, not deaf. I can still hear every one of you idiots. God, I can't stand these people. Ashana! Quite dazzling, Taddeo walks about wearing a turtleneck and a large trench coat. He is also noticeably not wearing a blindfold as well. What the deal with that?
You're looking beautiful as always, Ashana. And you're as late as always, Tadio. You know I can't stand royalty. How dare you keep me waiting here in these damn preppy streets. And you still have a mouth to you as well. Anyway, they're staring up a storm, are they, huh? Well, I don't see no one staring. Look, Tadio, I'm blind. How the hell am I supposed to see? Oh, right, God, look, I only said that because I was trying to act cool. You know, my eyes, everybody's scared of my eyes. Look, I'm only joking. Anyway, on a serious note, why don't we get down to business? Let's do some troubleshooting before we go in. I don't want no hiccups, you got me? Tadio, can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. Sheesh. Don't need to reply out loud, dummy. Think about it, and you'll hear it, okay? Hello? There you go, just like that. See, once inside, this is how we'll communicate. I don't want anyone noticing anything fishy about us, okay? I'll feed you information and coordinates, and all you have to do is plant these. Understand? I hear you, loud and clear. Alright, you're in the east wing of the castle, I believe. And with your eyes, no one should expect anything from you. So just get in there, go to the event, and leave, and let the rest be history. Now plant these stones anywhere. You're close enough to the walls from here. Got it? The stone should work as an attraction, causing... Tadio, what's going on? You went silent. Whoa. Shit. Did I say that out loud? Who is this guy? His eyes. He must be an enlightened, like me. Yo, can I help you with something? I was kinda in the middle of something. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I kinda just was in awe. I just happened to walk by and I heard you were dancing and my God, it was beautiful, by the way. Thanks. Sure do know how to flatter, don't you? Shit, she's a tough nut to crack. Most girls would be blushing all over the place. Or at least get mad at me and kick me out, but she kinda just took it and kept going. Though, I drew myself too much attention to myself, so let's change the subject. Yeah, well, totally. I saw that look in your eyes. It was enthralling. I could tell that this just isn't dance. It's art. It's something you love and passionate about. It's amazing. I see. Quite the observations, I guess. Yeah, so, actually, thing is, I was hoping you could direct me to the room holding the test your might trial, because I seem to have gotten lost. Sure, I can help, but you do have to help me with something first. Just be my dance partner. What are you talking about? I don't know how to dance. I can't be your dance partner. I just saw what you could do. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You're observant, so I'll lead. You'll follow. Listen, lady, can you at least tell me what the objective here is? Try and mirror my every move. Let's put those eyes to the test. Oh yeah, how could I forget? The name's Matilda. Nice to meet you. I'm the princess of this castle. This woman's movements. This isn't just dance. She's evaluating my physical stats with every swipe and move. It's like if I don't lock in right now, I will die. What is this feeling? It feels like my body's not in my own control. Is she doing this?